All right, Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves. Is this much better than the 2000 remake? Yes, it is, but we'll talk about that. Let's do that now. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to Movie Emporium's movie review of Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves. This film is directed by John Francis Daley and Jonathan Goldstein. So, set in the world of Neverwinter, this story of Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves is, of course, a Dungeons and Dragons tale about basically a group of thieves, in essence, who are betrayed by this character played by Hugh Grant, as well as the sorceress who's played by Daisy Head. And these characters, played by Chris Pine and Michelle Rodriguez and Justice Smith and Sophia Lillis, basically have to not only get the gold that was stolen away from them, but stop these two individual characters from, creating chaos and problems. And therefore, they are doing what they do in a Dungeons and Dragons games. They're fighting dragons. They're using magic. They're doing everything you expect out of a story like this. But in the process, for instance, Michelle Rodriguez and Chris Pine have a history together. They're friends. They're cohorts. They're co-workers and stuff like that. Justice Smith is the sorcerer magician in this movie, and of course, Sophia Lillis is of course the shape-shifting character. And it basically is exactly what you expect from a Dungeons and Dragons story, with the magic and dragons and all that good stuff, and everything you can kind of comes with it and all that good stuff. So anyways, that's the basic story. They're basically trying to take down the Hugh Grant. And of course, Chris Bryan has a daughter who's played by Coleman, and he's trying to get back from Hugh Grant's character. So with that said, of course, John Francis Daley and Jonathan Goldstein are, of course, known for doing films like Game Night. They are the screenwriters of the first Spider-Man Homecoming film. They're individuals that are pretty competent in what they do. They are very, very funny as screenwriters. They have a good head behind their shoulders. Of course, John Francis Daley, of course, was part of Freaks and Geeks and stuff like that. But similar to Oplet and, of course, Gillett, who do the Scream movies now, and, of course, the Daniels. These are two individuals that are, basically kind of inseparable with one another. They kind of work together pretty well. But as we're aware, there was a 2000 version of Dungeons and Dragons that had Marlon Wayans in it. Pretty terrible. Probably one of the worst films that came out that year. It was pretty much the problem with video games or tabletop game movies that got turned into adaptations. There was no love behind it. There was just a way to sell a property and stuff like that. So here we are. We're in 2023. We've had stuff like The Last of Us come out. We've had, other properties. Game Night is a perfect example of not a adaptation of anything, but a perfect example of using game style in a movie. So with that said, Dungeons and Dragons looked like it was fun from the trailers. You have a pretty good cast in here, including, like I said, Chris Pine and Michelle Rodriguez, Regé-Jean Page, Justice Smith, Sophia Lillis, Hugh Grant, all that stuff. So the question remains for my honest review: is this a movie that feels like a Dungeons and Dragons property, and is it successful in what it's doing? Well, I will say this is 100% a way better film than that 2000 movie was. It is a much more competent film. It's a much more fun film. I think everybody in the movie is a lot of fun. They have their moments in the movie. They play their characters very well. They do a nice job with just the visual effects, which can be a little choppy, a little fakey, a little bit some of the time, but that's the unfortunate nature of visual effects in the 2023s and stuff like that. But it's a movie I feel on the acting talent alone is a fun story. I think Michelle Rodriguez and Sophia Lillis and Chris Pine and Justice Smith, who are the main core four characters, I think they have a lot of chemistry together. They work really, really well. I think Sophia Lillis is a little underused, to be fairly honest. She doesn't have as much speaking moments in this movie, but her character has some fun moments with her transformation and stuff like that to different animals and creatures. She has a little nice payoff at the end of the movie and stuff like that. It's the same thing with Chris Pine, who is, of course, playing the main actor, the main character, the one, who has to redeem himself. He has a daughter who doesn't really want to see him anymore. He has a past, stuff like that. Justice Smith is that character that's not confident. So it's almost like Wizard of Oz in a lot of respects. Sophia Lillis is the Scarecrow. Chris Pine is Dorothy, I guess. And Tin Man is, I don't know, Michelle Rodriguez, and of course, Lion is Justice Smith. I know that's not like a real good analogy, but it really feels like a little bit of Wizard of Oz where everybody gets their moments at the end. And I think Hugh Grant is a lot of fun. I think he plays very delicious bad guys in a lot of respects. I think, when he played in Paddington 2, that's a role that really kind of shined for him, and I think it really shines for him here. I think he has a lot of fun moments. He's not in it as much as I thought it was going to be, but I think the moments that he's in, he actually truly shines for the movie. movie, and I think Daisy Head she's fine. There's not really much kind of characterization to her. There's a really interesting idea behind these characters, who are these like red coated sorcerers and stuff like that, but they're never really follow through on that, and that's where my main problem leads into this movie. Is it's not the action or the characters, it's the overarching story. It's been done a billion times before. You'll watch it and you'll be like, I've seen this before. I get it. The whole father dynamic, the whole idea of like them going on a quest to stop the bad guy. It's very tiresome and very tropey, and just there's not much substance there. When it comes down to the story, yeah, you can have good characters and yeah, you can have good action and stuff like that, but you also have to have a good story. You know exactly the point and point B said it's going to make. You know exactly where it's going to go. You know exactly where it's going to end. And outside of a couple of fun cameos and some, fun moments, there's a thing in like a clip they show with the skeletons and stuff like that of the dead people, which I thought was a lot of fun. Like I said, the cameo is a lot of fun, but I just think the overarching story is just a very bland one. It actually bored me a little bit because it just doesn't feel original at all. It feels like, I guess you could do this as a Dungeons and Dragons kind of quest if you did it with a bunch of friends, but I think there's much more interesting quests out there, even though I'm not, 100% real familiar with the idea of the quest that they are presented. I think that there are people out there that put on much, much better stories when it comes to the Dungeon Master and what they're doing than what I think the two directors and the writers and stuff like that are doing here. I don't think they fully deliver on the premise. I think the trailers give away too much. And I just think, once again, there are some characters that get short shrifted when it comes to like the expansion of who they are and what they are. It's a fine movie. It's fine. It's like a mid movie. It's one of those movies that, you'll go to the theater, maybe it'll make some money, but you'll go to the theater, you'll enjoy it, but you kind of forget about it, to be fairly honest. When you see it on TV, you'll be like, oh yeah, it's on Paramount Plus, sure, I'll watch it. Hey, it's not the worst thing in the world. I mean, it's not Shazam or something like that, but it's a movie that just, I don't feel like I'm going to remember at the end of this year. I'm probably going to go, oh yeah, that was a movie I saw. I forgot about that movie. But once again, it's not a bad movie. It has fun moments. It has entertaining moments. There are points where I did laugh. I just, it is what it is. It's one of those movies that is a March movie or an April movie or whenever this comes out. So, but overall, I think that's where I'm going to leave it. I think that's my review of this movie. I think it's a fine movie that is, it's definitely better than the 2000 version. So I'll leave it at that. So with that said, I think that'll do it. I think that'll be my take on this film, Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves, which is a long title. It doesn't really need to be that long. But with that said, thank you so much for watching. Comments below. What do you think about Dungeons and Dragons? Have you ever played the tabletop game? Have you ever played the expansions? Let me know what your kind of history is with it. Otherwise, if you do see this movie or have seen this movie, let me know overall what you think. But with that said, thank you so much for watching. Hit the subscribe button to join Movie Emporium. Hit that notification bell top to find what's coming next. If you like this video, awesome. Hit that like button. And as always, we'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.